There is a moment that happens every summer, and most women over 60 know it without being told what it is, and French women over 60 tend to handle it rather differently from everyone else. You pull something from the back of the wardrobe, a linen dress you bought 3 years ago, or a sleeveless top that used to be a favorite, and you hold it up, and you decide not to wear it. You put it back. You find something else. The decision takes about 4 seconds, and it leaves a small residue that you don't particularly examine. It happens in changing rooms too. A sleeveless dress on the hanger that looked interesting, tried on, studied in the mirror, returned to the rack. The saleswoman says nothing. You say nothing. You look for something with a sleeve. It's not vanity, though it gets called that. It's something closer to a particular kind of fatigue, the gap between how you feel inside and how certain clothes make you feel the moment you actually put them on. The fashion industry built an entire subgenre around this feeling. The best tops for hiding your arms, how to dress your arms after 60, summer coverage that doesn't look like coverage. The word they always reach for is flattering, which has never quite meant what it pretends to mean. French women over 60, for the most part, do not read these articles. Their arms are not different from anyone else's. And it is not that they have arrived at some philosophical summit of self-acceptance that the rest of the world is still climbing toward. That framing is too simple and a little convenient. The difference is something more ordinary. Somewhere in their late 50s, most of them made a decision about this, and they stopped revisiting it. The decision was not about hiding. There is something in the French approach to dressing, and this holds across decades of observation, across street photography, across the wardrobes of women who have nothing to do with fashion professionally, that finds the project of concealment fundamentally draining. Building an outfit around what you are trying to cover, rather than what you want to show, is to a French woman of a certain age roughly as appealing as decorating a room around its worst feature. You do not do it. You work with what is there, and you point the eye somewhere more interesting. This is what they do instead. They redirect. Redirection is a specific skill, and it operates on one straightforward idea. The eye goes where you point it. If your neckline is well considered, the eye moves to the neckline. If your décolleté is elegant, and décolleté has nothing to do with age, it has to do with proportion. The eye moves there. The arm becomes background, simply not the subject of the picture. The primary mechanism for this is the 3/4 sleeve. Study the wardrobes of French women over 60, or study the photographs, the women at outdoor cafes in the 6th arrondissement, in Saint-Germain-des-Prés in June, the women on the Ile Saint-Louis on a Tuesday afternoon, the women who appear in the background of other people's street photography, unremarkable except that they look completely right, and the 3/4 sleeve appears constantly. It ends between the elbow and the wrist, at the point where the arm is naturally its most elegant, narrowest, most animated when the hand moves, and farthest from whatever concerns exist about the upper arm. It creates a visual stop that guides the eye to the hand and then lets it travel elsewhere. It does not announce itself. It simply does not leave the upper arm as the last thing you register. What gets attached to that sleeve varies, but within a fairly narrow range. The silk blouse is the most common. French women of 65, 70, 75 are wearing silk blouses in some form across almost every warm month photograph you find of them. Not silk charmeuse, which clings and loses its composure in heat, but silk crepe, crepe de chine being the particular variant you encounter most, or washed silk, fabrics that fall away from the body rather than resting against it. These blouses come in colors that have a settled quality, a particular shade of navy that is neither bright nor dull, ivory rather than white, a stone tone that sits somewhere between beige and gray with no single name in English. A French woman tends to buy one of these, perhaps 2 over a decade, and keep them for years, which is why the same blouse sometimes appears in photographs taken a decade apart, worn over the same kind of trouser, as if the question of what to put on during a warm evening had already been permanently resolved. This is, in its quiet way, the capsule wardrobe in its purest form, a small number of pieces chosen with enough care that the choosing essentially stops. On this blouse, the 3/4 sleeve does something specific. It signals that some thought went into the dressing, and it removes the arm from the conversation entirely because the fabric, the weight of it, the slight movement, the way it catches light differently from cotton, is simply more interesting to look at. The lightweight open cardigan is the second piece French women return to consistently. Open is the operative word. A buttoned cardigan at 60 reads, in the French context, as a garment chosen by someone who has stopped wanting to be interesting. An open cardigan worn loose, draped over the shoulders occasionally, or simply left open with no intention of closing it, does something different. It creates a vertical line from shoulder to hem that is inherently lengthening, and it gives the arm something to exist beside rather than something to hide beneath. The arm is visible inside an open cardigan, it is just not the point. The linen shirt comes third, worn with the sleeves rolled once to just above the elbow, not carefully, not matched precisely on both sides. The roll is deliberate, but does not appear to be, which is honestly a harder thing to achieve than it sounds, and is probably why French women who have figured it out look so easy about the whole thing. The shirt itself is usually purchased a full size up, which means it falls away from the torso and creates a loose, unhurried relationship between fabric and figure. With well-cut trousers, it stops being casual and becomes something considered without appearing to try. The arm is simply the thing the sleeve is resting near, on its way down to the hand. Then there is the wrap. Not the wrap dress specifically, though the wrap dress is part of it. Diane von Furstenberg codified this particular garment in 1974, and its endurance is not coincidental. But the underlying structural principle is a neckline that crosses itself and creates a diagonal line from shoulder to sternum. This diagonal is what matters. It is almost geometrically impossible for the eye to track a diagonal neckline and simultaneously pay close attention to the upper arm. The diagonal simply claims more attention than the arm does. French women have been wearing versions of this: the wrap blouse, the wrap dress, the crossover neckline, long enough that the choice no longer reads as a calculation. It reads as a preference, which is true of most French-style decisions once they have settled in. There is one more element, and it is harder to categorize because it is not quite a garment. A silk square or a fine cotton scarf placed across one shoulder and allowed to fall over the arm. In description, this can sound fussy. In practice, it rarely is, provided the scarf is draped rather than knotted, and provided it brings something, color, pattern, texture, that is distinct from everything else in the outfit. What it does is move your eye to the shoulder and the fall of the fabric, which is a long way from the upper arm. A woman in an ivory blouse with a square of patterned silk falling across one arm has given you something specific to look at. The arm is somewhere in the picture, but it is not what stays with you. What all 5 of these choices have in common is that each one reaches toward something rather than away from something else. The silk blouse reaches toward quality and fabric. The open cardigan reaches toward line. The linen shirt reaches toward ease worn well. The wrap neckline reaches toward the décolleté, drawing the eye up and in. The scarf reaches toward color at the shoulder. None of them are solving a problem in any legible way. They are each making a quiet assertion about how the woman wants to be perceived, which is a different kind of statement entirely from, "Please don't look at my arms." There's a type of outfit French women over 60 almost never wear, and it's worth naming directly. It's the outfit that solves one concern and creates another. The sheer layer over a sleeveless dress that provides coverage in theory, but announces that coverage was sought. The flutter sleeve that moves when the arm moves and draws attention to exactly what it was meant to distract from. The cardigan buttoned to the throat in 30-degree heat. French women recognize these solutions. They tried versions of them once, years ago, and then they stopped. A solution that announces itself as a solution is, in their view, worse than the original problem. What they wear instead doesn't announce anything. French women over 60 who dress this way aren't thinking about their arms while they get dressed. They're thinking about whether the blouse needs to go to the cleaner before the weekend, or whether the stone-colored cardigan works with these trousers, or whether they've worn the blue scarf enough times this month that it's time to put it away for a while. The arm question was resolved some years ago. The pieces that answered it became the wardrobe, and the wardrobe became, over time, simply how they dress. Not a strategy, not a system, just what they reach for when it's warm and they have somewhere to be.